Yeah. Okay. I am Julia Weiss, and I'm sharing a presentation on adolescent sleep and wake patterns and how school and work affect them. Okay. Okay, so here is my Google slide. Can you see that? Yeah, okay. Okay, so this picture just um, it just made me think of my own teenagers. I have a 15 and a 13-year-old, and um, we all know that teens tend to want to sleep a lot, and there's good reasons for that. In our next slide, I just wanted to go over the cycles that the brain goes through. So we have the REM cycles. REM is for rapid eye movement, and the NREM is actually where there's no rapid eye movement. But there's 3 different cycles of the NREM, and the first one is actually the transition between awake and asleep, and it's the lightest stage of sleep. And then they transition into the second NREM stage, which is actually, it looks like this right here. It's the sleep spindle, and it transitions between low voltage and high frequency EEG waves. And then it also has high voltage, slow frequency EEG spikes. Then it transitions into the third NREM stage. And this stage is more even as far as the frequency, but the spikes vary. So it's low or high voltage, but it's a really slow frequency, and it leads into the REM stage. For adolescents, they spend more time in the REM2 stage compared to like an infant or a child, which they are actually most, well, it's actually pretty divided for them, where they spend a lot of time in REM and a lot of time in the third NREM stage. And actually, for a healthy night's sleep, it's important to be cycling through all of these stages like several times a night. And a teenager actually does cycle between 5 to 6 times a night. So it's really important for them to be getting that. If they're not getting that and it's a shortened sleep time, then that does mean less REM time. And so we can see how adolescents can be struggling with not getting enough of that, and how it might affect their brain and their functioning. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the regulatory systems for sleep. And we have the circadian rhythm. And this is more like your biological clock. It's a 24-hour clock, so it's regulating like all throughout the day, when you sleep, when you are awake. It's regulated and it's wake promoting. But then we have the homeostatic process that they kind of coincide with each other. And it's more your drive for sleep. And so if you're not getting enough sleep at night, it's actually what is will it's your body's regulatory system that will actually get you to want to go to sleep. um, and so throughout the day, it's kind of building up while you're awake, and so that's what causes you to be sleepy at night. And then at night when you're sleeping, it actually decreases. It will actually compensate for a lack of or too much sleep, which I thought was really interesting, meaning that if you're not getting enough sleep at night, it will actually make you catch up during the day. Or if you're getting too much sleep, you'll be more awake later. So if we know about that and what a teenager is actually experiencing with school and work, we know that they are going to school about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they have academic and social pressures also. Like this picture of playing basketball. My daughter is 15 years old and she does volleyball, and sometimes when she has games, she's not getting home until 9 o'clock at night. So she's at school all day and then doing volleyball the rest of the evening. And she's actually one that loves to go to bed early. And then she's just, her clock automatically wakes her up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, which I am the opposite of that. And my 13-year-old is also the opposite of that. But then they also have pressures of jobs and late evenings with their jobs, and then also their time spent on computers or screens for homework, and then just also like social media and things like that, just spending time on the computers for that. And then if there's any interruptions or inconsistent sleep routines, interruptions can just be as simple as the family having an activity and not getting home until later. And so then that pushes their sleep drive off. And so then they have to wake up the next morning early and they're not getting enough sleep that night. And I thought this picture was so classic for a teenager in high school. And we all know that adolescents fall asleep during their classes, and we all know teachers that don't want them falling asleep. And I actually have my daughter's teacher will actually put time aside for them to sleep during their class, because I think he understands a teenager's need for sleep. And if we want to be able to support our adolescents and their sleep needs, here are some things that we can be aware of. They actually need 9.2 hours of sleep a night, which actually does not change very much from when they're a child. But their natural, like homeostatic process is to actually go to bed later. Teenagers have more awake time at night. Their natural process is to actually not be going to bed until like 11 or 12 at night, which is interesting that we make them go to school so early if we know this information, and that's why they're tired at school during the day. When they become adolescents, their hormones are changing. They are going through puberty and maturation, which increases their sleep time, their sleepiness during the day. Their circadian rhythm changes, which is them wanting to stay up later and sleep in later. And their increased light sensitivity is also affecting them. The average night sleep by the age 16 is less than 7.5 to 8 hours, which is a lot less than what they're actually needing. So if we can try to help them to get to bed earlier, if they've got early morning hours, that'll help them. And then their homeostatic process will actually help them catch up on the weekends. And the average is like 30 to 60 minutes on the weekends, increasing by 2 hours by the time they're 18 years old. So that's the research that I found, and I think it's just really interesting, and I'm curious to know more. And that's it.
That was really good.
Oh, thank you.
You did a really good job on your PowerPoint. I love it. Okay, so I am going to. All right. So I did on adolescent sleep patterns the effects of sleep deprivation. And so I started off with what is sleep deprivation? So sleep deprivation is when a person does not get the needed amount of sleep to feel refreshed and well functioned. And this honestly varies between people. Some people do need more sleep than others. I need a lot of sleep. I probably sleep 10 to 12 hours a day or at night, but my mom sleeps 4 hours a night. And so sleep deprivation is is inadequate sleep, not sleeping enough. It's irregular sleeping patterns, and it's poor quality of sleep. And 2/3 of adolescents report that they suffer from some sort of sleep deprivation. And the causes of sleep deprivation. Obviously, it's poor sleeping habits, not having a routine, having, things come up to where they have to go to bed later or wake up earlier. And like you said, the circadian rhythm disturbances. You have sleep disorders. You have insomnia. There are certain medications that cause insomnia. The onset of puberty, like you talked about, can cause sleep deprivation. And then you have things like ADHD and autism that cause sleep deprivation on their own. Light exposure, as well as your social attitudes. And so I take medication that causes me to have trouble sleeping. And then I have a daughter, she's 9, and she is diagnosed with insomnia. And so for years, the doctors would say, just give her melatonin because it would help. And so, and then I found a different doctor, and he said, just start cutting lights, dimming lights earlier in the evening, because that causes the body to release its own melatonin, and that can help children to fall asleep on their own without aids. And that actually helps quite a bit. But your symptoms of sleep deprivation, obviously it can be, the kid feeling tired, being cranky, irritable, depressed, and then it goes into more. And so forgetfulness, the inability to concentrate or to focus on a task, forgetting what you're doing. Weight gain is actually a symptom of sleep deprivation, as well as memory impairment and slower physical reflexes. And so with the symptoms in mind, there are some obvious, problems with it. So I'm going to go. So how bad is sleep deprivation? So sleep is known as a time where the body recharges and heals itself and brain growth happens. And the effects of sleep deprivation don't just stop at your lack of focus and your bad moods. Like I said, it can go into, slower physical reflexes, which can cause, problems, and your memory impairment and weight gain. And so those things can lead to more serious conditions that come as a result of your poor sleep. Obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and the injuries that come with, slower reflexes or forgetfulness and things like that. And those are my sources. So this is a lot of times your sleep deprivation, your symptoms are a lot of your effects as well. And there are ways that you can help with that. And the first one you should look at is like your routine, the nighttime routine, and making sure, like you said, There, no screens like 2 hours before bedtime is a good idea, and dimming lights, and not eating a big meal within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime as well can help with promoting better sleep in kids and adolescents. And that is all I have. And so